Welcome. I'm Kinglink and I'm going to be your host tonight. Or today, depending on what time you watch this. It's going to be our first of two award shows. I think this is the more popular category, Worst of the Year. Now, maybe it's me, but I love the worst list. This is always far more interesting than finding out if, Zelda Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey won the top award for the year from every site. Instead, let's talk about the worst games I played and just what made them terrible. Unfortunately, because this is a video program, I'm going to be forced to replay some of these games for admittedly minutes. Alright, just minutes. I'm not subjecting myself to these games for that long. Some rules for my award show. I don't review a ton of games each year, and I don't review everything that came out in a year, so I'm going off of about the 60 titles that I've reviewed this year. I have to have a full review for the game. The Oculus mini pieces didn't count. And this is a personal opinion. I review games for you, I give awards out for me. That also means scores don't matter here. I could recommend a game and still have it on this list, but not this year. This year it's the worst. Also, it doesn't have to have been published this year. That's just due to when I get to reviewing the games. Apparently, I also don't care about worrying what publishers think of me. Last year, I didn't do a worst of the list because I thought it was harsh. I'm no longer trying to be publishers or developers' friends. I don't even accept review copies, so really, there's nothing to stop me from calling out the worst of the worst. It's kind of freeing to say that. Now, with that said, we're going to start with 3 honorable mentions. No, that sounds wrong. 3 dishonorable mentions. Let's call them what they really are. They are no particular order for these 3. And you've already seen it on screen for a bit. The first dishonorable mention is No Man's Sky. The only reason I didn't drop it on the list is I didn't review it. I want to call it out though. I probably won't review it ever, but I keep hearing it's gotten a lot better. That's true, but it's still not that good. It's about as boring as ever, and honestly, why do people think this is good enough? I played it at launch on PS4, I played it this year on PC, including using the Oculus. It is interesting in VR, but it's just not good. It has all the same flaws, just a little bit nicer coat of paint. I couldn't even get my Steam controller working for this. I couldn't land, and I couldn't use the warp drive, and so that's what I have for the video. Sorry, No Man's Sky, but honestly, I think everyone's called this game out. Second dishonorable mention, Injustice 2. Now, I admit, I have a huge hate boner for microtransactions, as you'll see later in this list. I think they're one of the worst things to ever happen to the video game industry and gaming as a hobby. But that's not bad enough to be on this list. In fact, I can enjoy games with microtransactions in them. It's just hard to think of many. The problem is what bad microtransactions do to gameplay. Injustice 2 is a perfect example of this. It has RPG leveling in a fighting game, which ends up giving you more power. Do I really have to explain more? Alright, I will. There's also power from different equipment, and the equipment is level capped as you go up levels, and they're pulled from loot boxes, and of course you can buy loot boxes and more. I mean, who thought any of this was a good idea? And even if it was a good idea in the single player process somehow, which it's absolutely not, why was this the default for online play? It's just a horrible idea. Third dishonorable mention. Now, this is a game that I actually gave a decent review to, but it still deserves to be on this list. Just Cause 4. Guys, I love Just Cause 2, at least at the time. Just Cause 3 is still fun even today. But Just Cause 4, I mean, what the hell? This was the best that they could do. This is just terrible. It's a bad sequel, it's less playable, and just a terrible replacement for the series. I mean, go back and play Just Cause 3 because it's better than paying for a sequel that isn't as good. Save yourself some bucks. Alright, with those 3 games out of the way, let's talk about the worst games I reviewed this year. Why? Anyways, starting with number 5, we have our first double booking. Wolfenstein Youngblood and Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus. Now, to be clear, Wolfenstein Youngblood won the award all on its own. But I admit I might have given it to Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus. I think it's just a disappointing sequel, a worse story, a more pointless game, and a weaker experience. Good news, Wolfenstein 2, you were saved because they made yet another sequel, and Wolfenstein Youngblood is everything wrong with sequelizations. We changed main characters, though this was done to change to co-op, though we probably could have done with BJ and Anya as the main characters, but I do like the idea it was his 2 daughters. It's just a shame that the gameplay is just crap, making a possible co-op game could have worked, but drop in and drop out made this into a hub game with few levels in it, and it never really works. If you have a friend, you could have a good time, of course, but the majority of people are going to have to play a rather crap game. Now, let's just go down a little more of a litany, but it's like no checkpoints on 45-minute long missions, repetitive enemies, uninteresting gameplay. It just made all of this so disappointing. Very few cutscenes also don't help. Now, admittedly, some of this has been improved. I've heard there are patches that allow you to pause during single player and added in some checkpoints during 45-minute long missions, the real long ones. But we could allow patches to count here, and that's why I normally like to play games after launch. But you can't really fix bad design, and there's a lot of bad design in Wolfenstein Youngblood. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, yeah, it's those old friends again, leveling and microtransactions. Also, I got this game because it was supposed to have RTX to show off my new graphics card. It still doesn't even have the RTX patch. I don't even know if I should count that, but overall, this was disappointing. Oops. Next up, number 4. And I should be clear on this one. This game does deserve the worst game of the year, but I also probably shouldn't have reviewed it or played it. I wasn't planning to, but it was Rapture Rejects, and it was part of the Humble Monthly Bundle, which I review. At the time of writing the script, Steam Spy says in the last month, it had a max of 19 concurrent players. That's because it was part of Jingle Jam through Yogscast at Humble Bundle. Today it has 3 concurrent players. Just to be clear, this is a Battle Royale game, so that's not going to work. I'm going to try to get footage, but what I got was, well, it was the microtransactions. Really, nothing about this game is good. It was dead on arrival, dead when I played it, definitely dead now, and all of this for a Battle Royale game that never took off. I shouldn't have reviewed it, but it was in the Humble Monthly Bundle. And God, those microtransactions are horrible. Damn. Next up, we have number 3. It's our second double booking of the night. Danganronpa, another episode, Ultra Despair Girls, and Danganronpa V3, Killing Harmony. This is a little bit strange. I gave Danganronpa and its sequel, Danganronpa 2, one of my Game of the Year awards last year because I really loved them. They had amazing stories, solid gameplay, and an interesting system. But this year, we're at the bottom of the list. Danganronpa V3 only avoided getting this award because another episode. V3 has the best gameplay of the series, but a terrible story that does something wrong, which I won't talk about, but yeah, I think you know what I mean. Yet, it's another episode that is truly terrible. It doesn't have a good story on its own, and I think that's a huge problem on its own, but I think another episode could have been saved by a better story, even if it didn't connect to the series. The gameplay is awful, though. It's like a bad version of Resident Evil. It just doesn't even try to be engaging, and after the first hour or so, you're just shooting more and more robots. Even when there are gauntlets of enemies, it's all shooting robots in the eye, and that's about it. The boss fights are probably the only good parts of these games. The puzzles and normal gameplay was just a slog. It's a slog to get more story that you really don't care about. I just wanted to see something that related to the series, or at least something interesting, and it's just not here. Ugh. Alright, we're getting to the bottom here, and for number 2, we have Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor. Yeah, I guess I also like to promote the indies, even in this list. Now, the other games in this list had a reason for me to cover them. They were part of major series that I've played before or wanted to play. Or maybe they had connections to major comics like Cyanide and Happiness for Rapture Rejects, or were heavily promoted. Not Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor. This game is just this odd indie darling that caught my eye for how weird the style was and what people were saying about it. Probably should have been a warning, though. Nothing really works in this game. The graphics feel like glitches more than anything, the gameplay is repetitive, and the story is non-existent. But it's all of that while it's trying to be social commentary. It's trying to shove this message in your face. Well, not trying to shove it in your face. I mean, you're supposed to feel bad for the character and see examples of poverty, but the message doesn't really work, and it's only social commentary because there's really nothing else to do. You can't make deals, you can't sell items, you can't really talk to people. You have limited space in your room. It's all gameplay systems that are there for the express purpose of being gameplay systems. At least that's what social commentary is for this game. Or maybe I'm just overthinking it all and it's just a terrible game. It's weak. Finally, we have the worst game of this year, Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Now, we should be able to get a game with this one, which is why I think Rapture Rejects probably could be lower on this list. But this is also Call of freaking Duty. Let me explain this. This should be a great game. They probably put $20 to $50 million into this game alone, and then put even more into marketing it. And it's dead. Now, there is a new Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and that is of course why its players' counts are low now. I agree with that. But at least on PC, this was never healthy. I actually tried it out a couple months after launch in November due to other situations, and yeah, it never was that strong, and it still isn't. Now, that might not be enough, and I honestly think, judging this game solely based on player bases isn't acceptable. Here's the rest of it. This is also the multiplayer only Call of Duty because instead of a single player campaign, they push Battle Royale mode called Blackout. This is the first main Call of Duty game to not have a single player campaign when they still had multiplayer on all the other games. Yes, it has zombies. No, that doesn't count as a full single player campaign. Yes, there is a single player area, but it's about 12 missions long. And they're not even real missions, they're just fake multiplayer. Now, maybe it's too harsh to expect a single player since they never promised one. But I recently reviewed World War II, the game before this one, and it still was lively at that time. It was pre-Modern Warfare, and it still worked great. Unless you're playing Black Ops 4 for just Battle Royale or Blackout, there's no need to upgrade to this version. And also, this came out as a $60 game. It's still $60 new at GameStop. Yes, that is more commentary on GameStop itself, but this is a full price game that really isn't worth it. If you think paying $60 for just a Battle Royale version of Call of Duty, great, you got it already, but it's not a good deal. And listen, it's not even about just being a multiplayer only game. I accept that, but it's a price. If this was a free or even started at 20 to even $40, I think I could understand that. But they didn't even release a version of Blackout for free, so the player numbers dropped like a rock. That could have been, maybe the small saving grace. Instead, they wanted a full price without giving you a full game. This is just a $60 Battle Royale game. I mean, I have to keep repeating this. It's a $60 Battle Royale game. I don't even know another example of that. Apex Legends, Fortnite, Ring of Elysium, and pretty much every other Battle Royale game coming out now, outside of the $40 PUBG, is free. PUBG still sells for $40, I think, and I still don't understand that one. But I'm glad this didn't take off. I would hate to see $60 multiplayer-only games, even though there are. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, there's of course microtransactions as well. I mean, this whole thing is just terrible. So this is my list of the worst of 2019. If you've reached this far, thank you so much for watching. One day, I kind of hope to make this worst list just games that I didn't enjoy as much as others, the weakest games I played in a year, and not just pure awful games. But there'd actually be a lot for that to happen. It also would mean my review scores would have to raise on average due to, me not playing pure crap. Still, with this out of the way, coming up next, we will be talking about the best games of 2019 that I reviewed. There's some amazing games there that I've reviewed this year, and also that came out this year. If you haven't already, definitely click that subscribe button, ring the bell so you can get notified when that comes out. And I also have said that I will be doing a new series in the new year. Allow me to give you a little sprinkling of hints. I'm going to officially announce it next time, of course, but I'm going to be reviewing a very long series of games retrospectively, reviewing as many as I can, and talking about how they are in 2020, as well as kind of comparing it to each other. I won't tell you which series just yet, but you probably played at least one of their games. It also has enough on PC that I can do at least one game review a month, but more on that next time. I'm kind of excited to talk about that series. And I'm going to be popping up my review of Black Ops 4, so if you want to see what I really think about that series, you can check it out there. And my awards from last year, in case you want to see those, they're all positive, but really good choices there. Until next time, I'm Kinglink, and thank you for watching.